Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with my friend Jeffrey Gretner. He is amazing. I've known him now, I don't know, it's been a decade, I think.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 years. Oh my gosh, it's so great. And he is an amazing shaman, medicine man, sky astrologer. There's all these different ways that we can define ourselves. And I just want to say, I know that the word shaman and people claiming themselves to be shaman can be a bit of an issue. But if you, I know several who have been adopted by, medicine men or the shamans of the tribe and get trained and initiated and go through the whole process. And so it's not limited to, our indigenous background. And I'd like to say we're all indigenous. I'd like to think I'm very connected to the land.
Yeah.
My ancestors moved to this country in the 1600s. I mean,
Right.
I've been,
Right.
I've been, the lineage is a long lineage. It may not be a great lineage, but it's a long lineage. Anyway, so I just want to say that I'm very excited to share some wisdom that Jeffrey has gained over the years with you in what's called a grief ceremony. And he trained with somebody that came from, was it South Africa, Africa, somewhere in
West Africa.
West
Yeah,
Africa.
he comes Meladoma and Sabanfu Somé. Some people might recognize those names. They came from the Dagara tribe. And so I learned quite a lot from him primarily and directly and from the books, but also Martine Prechtel, who is Pueblo and Huron by birth, but was trained extensively in the Mayan tradition, and he shared a lot of that indigenous wisdom about grief. And then I've also learned a lot through my own work because I've been, doing ceremonial work for 30 years. And as you mentioned, Kaylin, I was adopted by a medicine man, a spiritual family in the Dakota tradition, the people of our land here, Minnesota. And Dakota, Lakota, that's the broader, larger group. Most people know Lakota, but the Eastern people were Dakota. Anyway, so I've had a lot of that training, and I've worked a great deal with people with from an empathic and compassionate point of view, and the things that I've learned in engaging with um, uh, people from this culture and the ways that the more intact indigenous cultures work through their grief and how to bridge those in a really good way. So yeah,
I
that's
am so, so excited that you're doing this. And part of the reason is because I got to do a grief ceremony with Sabanfu Some back in 2010, and it was so life-changing. And when after I had that experience, I was like, this is why we do this. And
right.
so not good that we don't know how to do it. So I just
Right.
wanted you to maybe share a little bit about the difference, because sometimes people will have grief circles, or they'll have that they do grief work, or they there's processes that you can do, but this is different. This is something that is community connected, and it is, I will just say, I had an experience. I had a Kundalini activation experience going through this that lit up every part of my body. And I was so stunned and so surprised by that. I was not expecting that. And then I was like, okay, now I'm getting it totally. This is why this is important work, because once we let go of the grief that we're holding in our body, then that energy can then move. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, and the one of the big challenges we have in our culture today is our disconnection from nature and from the earth, from the natural community and from the earth. This work feeds Mother Earth. It isn't just for us, although this is us, and it is the flow of that emotion that tends to get stuck in us. And people might not think about that naturally, or actually, if you get into your instinct, you might think of it naturally. But in our culture, we don't tend to think about how letting go of this emotion in a good way, we're actually allowing it to be transmuted and come back to us in this powerful, creative way. When you said you felt the Kundalini activation, that's because the earth literally feeds on this. It is a necessary component to us keeping the cycle of life. And imagine how much unresolved grief there is in the world right now. And by the way, we keep using that word grief. Well, the typical things are, oh, a personal loss. And I've had several friends actually pass away in the last uh, few months, and one of them very close and dear to me. And those are personal losses. But grief can also show up in anxiety. One of the things I mentioned is the world's going through such, our lives, our whole planet is going through such transformation right now. And even though some of it is exciting, some of it's scary, and yet this is where we are. And some of that anxiety has to do with, oh, this old stable way of being that I know, that's passing away. Even though some of it we want to pass away, it's still there. And so by learning how we engage more deeply with that community as well as our human community, because the other thing that happens in our culture typically, and there is some gender differentiation here, but where we process it by ourselves.
Mhm.
We hold on to it or process it by ourselves. Sometimes that's not a bad thing, but the reality is we need witness. We need people to know and to share what we're going through. And a good thing is I do see that happening more and more, where, the people are able to share their own grief or their own tears about some hard thing they've gone through. So the culture is changing, but I think this is a powerful component to let yourself really go into what it is that you're feeling and how you can share the love. And love is at the center of this whole thing. I call it my version of these things, that honoring grief and renewing hope, because that's what happens, is that when you let it go, and your grief story may not change. I've still lost that friend. I feel it almost every day. We're like, oh, I'd like to call her and see how she's doing. And, she's gone. So I call her in a different way, but, it's not the same.
The same, yeah.
Right.
I want to just say I'm appreciating what you're saying, because we all have personal grief. I mean, just being alive, people die, things die. We stop being children, we start being adults, we stop being younger adults into older, it's like there's this process of
Exactly.
life. And so we all have that. And we've never been taught really how to deal with that, or to honor that, or to celebrate the passing, and then also the opening of the space for something new. And what I appreciated about what Sabamfu shared with us when we did the grief ceremony was that in her tribal culture, they did these ceremonies like monthly. They did
Right.
them all the time. And if somebody went through a rough time, they all came together and grieved together. If there was something traumatic that happened in the tribe, they'd all come together and grieve together. So we have collective grief and personal grief. And when we do it together, when we allow ourselves to be in that space, because I've done a lot of grieving and I'd given myself permission to grieve, but it wasn't until I did this ceremony that I had that enlivening life force energy just blast through my body in such an
Right.
amazing way. I was just like, wow, I'm completely lit up now. And so I'm so excited that you are willing to offer this to people, to, and online, which makes it doable, because not everybody can travel to be somewhere to do this. So can you share a little bit more about what that's about?
Well, it's your fault. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I
because
can know
here's the thing.
that.
I mean, in terms of offering it online, because as you recall, Kaylin, we've had these conversations, and I was, going to be offering these things, and gee, can we get a group together? And it's hard, right? And to actually, that's a powerful way to do it. And so I had my doubts, but I kept working at it, and I've had some direct experiences where, I mean, I knew that we can transmit powerful energy around the planet together. And, there had been things that were being done online. They're mostly, classes and learning and whatever. But I had some direct experiences of being able to put things, just sending them and sharing them, and people having profound experiences. And it's all about creating the deep connection so that we're all in that heart space that allows us to work with Mother Earth, which, by the way, enhances that idea of the collective grief too, that we're not there all of it, especially since some of us may be carrying really things that have to do with the changing of the world. But back to the idea of being able to do it online, it's a bit of an experiment. I have a little bit of like, I hope this works. But and I carry a chanupa in this Dakota tradition, and one of the ceremonies is the Inipi, the sacred sweat lodge. And I had someone that I I haven't even met her in person, but she knew I was doing it, and I told people, if you have a need or whatever, so we can put it out there. And she had such a profound healing experience that she wrote me and sent me a
She
donation.
wasn't present physically in that, but she was
Right,
present by
right,
commitment, by intention, by like tuning in as you were doing that. And I think that's something that's really important. And I will say that there were a lot, we probably had 30, maybe 40 people at this grief ceremony that I went to.
oh yeah,
And some had more profound experiences than others. And I
sure,
think that for me, because I was 100% committed.
right, yeah,
And that makes the difference. You need to be committed to the process to really, and I think you can still get benefit even if you're not as maybe 100% committed, but there's something to be said for being committed to the process for yourself and for the planet, for ourselves individually and for ourselves collectively. And so I suspect and feel that it's profound. It'll be profound in so many ways when people are engaged and are willing to do all the steps and show up and be a part of it. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, that's an important piece too, to remind people that yes, they're going to be 2-hour sessions, and the teachings themselves will really be valuable. Even if, I mean, some people might know some of this, but anyway, we'll see. But my general feeling is that just the teachings, the 2-hour segments that we're actually doing on Zoom over the course of the weekend, those will be valuable. But also, a person to get the full benefit has to be committed to it. And one of my concerns was, well, if people are just kind of treating it, I mean, you can approach it any way you want. I mean, it's fine. Like you said, they'll get some benefit. Probably the best benefit is when you're fully committed to this. And if you can mostly set aside, if not fully set aside, the time, because when people are on retreat, then we're all in that container together and so on. And um, and so the more that you can move into that space and not schedule 5 other things in between the sessions, if possible, like we tend to do,
Yeah.
the better,
Yeah.
because if
So
it distracts you from that, you
being
can't
present.
go through the alchemical process completely.
Yeah. Beautiful.
It
I love that
pulls
you
you
said
out of
that.
it.
You're also reminding me that one of the things we did, and I did this in a day-long ceremony. It was like an all-day ceremony when I did it. I know that weekends or however people do it, there's, I think you did weekend things, and so I
Right.
get that. But one of the things we did was we had little breakout groups, and we would talk
Right.
about some of the things we're doing. So is that something you're going to be able to incorporate into this?
We will need to do that,
Yeah.
yes, because one of the differences, by the way, in terms of if people have experienced the Dagra or West African grief ritual, is that at least the ones that I attend, there wasn't um, community opportunity to share one's grief story. And the way I've talked about that in the past is that when they do these on a monthly basis and they do it in the village or in a Mayan village, people know what what crap you're going through.
Because
And
you're part of the tribe, you're part of the community. It's like
right,
just you don't have to like now when we're coming together from not knowing each other, or maybe we know each other, but we don't know each other that well, or however
right,
that is,
right.
we need the time to be able to talk about what's up for us and how we're engaging the process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the both the shared, this is we want people to grieve with us. And in fact, it's important to do that. That's part of what some people call the witnessing. And as one of the personal things that one woman was telling her story, and the woman next to her just started wailing.
Yes. I was just gonna say that.
And as I'm remembering it, I'm feeling that emotion and I'm very emotional. I'm very empathic, right? And still got that strong man, but I'm very empathic. So you'll probably see me tearing up a whole lot too, because these are really they're powerful stories, and we need people to see us,
Be
to know who we
witness, as you
are.
said. Yeah, being
Yeah.
witness. It's just oh, it's just there's nothing like it, and we just don't have that much of an opportunity. I mean, we can go on retreats and sometimes people get to share and that kind of thing, but this is specifically about that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
So
um I yeah, I am really excited about it too. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that we get a number of people who need this and really want to participate,
and
because
hopefully
it
this
will
is
help.
just beginning. That there'll be
Yeah,
more the opportunities for that. And also, so you just for people who are tuning in, this is kind of a little bit of an overview of what's going on, and there may be a little more you want to say about that. But there's going to be you're going to offer a live video on August 6th. If you're
right,
seeing this after that time, there'll be a replay that you can connect
right,
to. I'll put it once that live video happens, I'll make sure it's in the show notes, but won't be there until after August 6th.
right. Yeah,
And and then and so if you have questions and you can show up live, great. If you don't, I'm imagining and I can put I'm putting you on the spot here, Jeffrey. I can put your I can put your email in the show notes as well, and people could email you their questions and you could cover that when you do that other video.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
so the
cool.
dates are August 6th at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. There will be a Zoom call. So if you go to my website and sign up, click through, if you get, from the homepage, click through to the web page that goes into detail. The actual ceremonial event starts on August 16th, Friday night, the 16th, and then through Saturday and Sunday. And so 16, 17, 18. And yes, that intro call will be very important for people, because we've shared a fair amount of information here, but we're going to go beyond that, because I'm going to give people some details so they can be preparing.
Right.
And yeah, and so the website, I mean, I don't know, we could put it
I
in the
can put the
comments,
link
but
to the page right in the show notes, so
oh,
I will do
perfect.
that. And then, of course, I'll send you my show notes and you can put them in your show notes on your YouTube page. So that'll be
Right.
there for people. They can access that along with how to email and how to get in touch with you and all that. And there was something else I was thinking, I just forgot.
Yeah,
Okay,
did we
so
miss anything? Mm.
yeah, yeah, I don't know if we did, but if you did, it'll be covered in the August 6th um
Yeah,
video.
we hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, so encouraging people to check that out as that's a free offering. The weekend you're offering, there's um a tuition, but you can also get what's the word I'm looking for? Not scholarship,
Sliding
sliding
scale
scale. That's what I
for
was looking
people in
for.
need, for people
Yeah.
in need. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
want to make it available to everyone who really wants to do this, but don't have necessarily have as much resources to be a part of it. So,
right,
so
right.
yes, if
Yeah,
this feels like something that's calling to you, please reach out and we'll make sure that, well, Jeffrey will make
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I'm
I'm
just
going to be
so,
working pretty hard holding the space, so it's worth what I'm asking, and but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
but if you need it,
totally. Yeah,
yeah,
and just so grateful that you are offering this because this isn't something that, I don't think I know Sabanfu is no longer with us. She passed a few years after I did the ceremony with her, and I don't know about Malidoma, um but
yeah. He passed just a couple years ago, I
just a
think.
couple
Yeah,
years ago. Yeah, so it's like, how do we carry this on
right,
and
right.
start healing ourselves and our world? So good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So
So
thank you, Jeffrey. Really, really
thank
excited
you
that
so
you're doing this.
much. Yes,
And
thank you,
yeah.
Kaylin.
All right.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Hope we see you
Well,
there.